Hey everyone, so in this video, I'm just going to go over the attack teams that I used during WOC. This video was requested by the community, so I thought I would just explain what each toon's role was, their mods, as well as their weapons, just to give people an idea of my thought process when I was creating these teams. And don't forget everyone to like and subscribe to my channel for more content and information. So this is my aggressive team, and I named it aggressive because it's my heavy attacking team that I use when I'm faced with a true defensive lead. And what I define as a true defensive lead is a toon that provides both HP and defense to the defensive team. So we think of Pete, Leopo, Aaron, and those are just a few examples. I like this team because I have a lot of offensive power, and I find I really need an offensive leader like Priya, who gives me a plus 50% attack boost and a huge bonus to AP when attacking to all ranged toons. You will notice on my team, my only two ranged toons that are getting this bonus are Priya and Princess. And yes, this is by design. So it's a little confusing for people because they might question me on why do I have Ivanova in when I could use Aaron and do relatively the same thing. I use my Ivanova for her active skill, which gives plus 25% attack to all teammates, as well as focus to everyone on the team. This is imperative to my attack team because focus, you can use it to manipulate the game a little bit. When you're focused, you can get the attack up when taunted boost. Even though you're in full control of your team, you can ignore confuse abilities, and you can attack around human shields. I also like that Ivanova, being a green toon, allows me to hold a stun on attack weapon, specifically a team player weapon, which gives 15% attack as well as plus 35 crit chance increase to herself as well as any toon adjacent to her. The two toons adjacent to her are Princess and Priya, the two toons that I want to have that attack boost and the crit increase. I also like the fact that Ivanova will not get the AP bonus from Priya, just in case I end up attacking with her first by accident, because when I use my Dr. Stevens, he will give AP to the two toons that have the most amount of AP. And if I had run Aaron, she might have a huge bonus to AP on her weapon as well, and after an initial attack would have the same amount of AP as both Priya and Princess. But I want to ensure that my Priya and Princess are the ones to gain the AP. I'm also using Maggie right now because her active skill can recover from impair, which is very useful. She's a commander. She can hold either an 8% weapon or an absolute defense weapon with team player. And when she rushes, she's able to heal my teammates, which is incredibly important with how much infection is out there at the moment. So I think Maggie is just a great toon to use, and she's easily accessible for a lot of different players. I would definitely say that my attack team is a pretty basic attack team. Priya is my main damage dealer. She's a great leader. I like her active skill, her rush. I have a double attack rampage weapon for her, so she produces quite a bit of damage, especially because when she rushes, she can rush up to 3 times with basic attacks with a double attack weapon that'll double to up to 6 times, and then off of each of those attacks, if there's a critical hit, each of those could rampage as well, equaling a total of 18 attacks. Priya's greatest threat, of course, is reflect damage. Next, when we look at our command toon, as I mentioned before, her kit is fairly well composed, especially in the infection era. When she rushes, all teammates regain 35% of their max HP for 2 turns. So this is really effective because there's also a defensive buff, but the 35% is enough to clear the trader's active skill as well as his weapon, or Mateo's active skill. So there's a lot of use and a lot of possibility. Now, I've given her a very defensive weapon so that she can survive a little bit. There isn't any AP, but I'm hoping the AP off of Dr. Stevens from being attacked will be able to charge her so I can use her on occasion at least. And I'm actually just going to jump back for a second because I forgot to go over my Priya's mod setup. And I think that might be the most important part. So I went with a crit chance mod that I got from a 33k survival road box. So I'm very excited about this. This mod is very, very good and helps with her rampage. I have attack versus fast because there's lots of fast toons still being used on defense. And because I don't have a trade advantage, I think it's just advisable to have. confuse resist, stun resist, and attack up when impaired is my bread and butter, because so many people run toons that can impair. So by using this, I get a huge attack boost, especially if I choose to rush on a toon with an impair weapon. So now moving back on forward, we look at Maggie's mod set. It's a very defensive mod set. You see I have a confuse resist on her, as well as a reflect damage mod. And later on when you see my Nick, you'll notice that he has a stun resist mod. So I kind of like that I have those different options. So Maggie obviously works better against Jackie teams. And against Jackie teams, we usually see a traitor on defense with them. Hence the healing, the confuse resist, just kind of an all-encompassing toon right here. So she is a great choice to use in my opinion. But I have Nick set up so that if I want to use him on a Mercer team, for example, I can, especially because I have 2 yellow team player weapons now. The next toon that we're going to look at is Dr. Stevens. Dr. Stevens is imperative to my attack team because of his unnatural AP gain. He really does help me with rushing my team early, so I'm able to finish matches faster, basically. I have a defensive build-up. I would prefer if all of these mods were an HP set, but unfortunately, I don't have the same caliber of mods. So like 67% stun resist is very important because I use him against Mercer teams. 62.5% confuse resist, great because I use him against Jackie teams. He's kind of an all-encompassing toon that way, and he fits in really well against most toons that are used in the meta. His weapon is Masterwork level. It's not diamond, but it's still very good. I left his special, increased his HP and defense. I got team player. I wanted fast healing, but this'll do. I don't want to craft it off. I will like to try and craft him a fast healing weapon off of impenetrable defense, but that's for the future. Ivanova, as I mentioned, I use her mainly because of her active skill. Just focus is such an important tool to use, and she also gives that small attack buff. When she rushes, she can do minus 25% defense down to a line, which can help line up attacks for like Princess as an example. I do have an attack set mod set on her because I run a defensive weapon on her. So I still want her to do some damage, but I also want her to live. So the stun resist and confuse resist are again because I run her against Jackie as well as Mercer teams from time to time. Attack up when taunted because if she's focusing my team anyway, she's going to get that attack boost when she attacks. And that can be so extremely important. Having the trade advantage against Dr. Stevens, for example, she might actually get a kill against some Dr. Stevens on defensive teams. When we move on to Princess, Princess has an enormous amount of power and control. Her active skill is invaluable, and if you don't have a Princess, I would 100% suggest getting one. She is just such a good toon. I have an attack mod on her. It's not the same set, but it's still a boost up. Attack while taunted, of course, because she gets taunted a lot. Stun resist against Mercer teams. An HP mod just because her active skill gains 35% AP, which could be 1500 maim damage against Angel, and attack versus fast. Her weapon isn't perfect, and I don't exactly want the tough healing. Again, I was trying for team player, but I'm going to leave it just because armory tokens are expensive. So the next team that I run is an anti-angel team. There's no Dr. Stevens, even though I have one with daze resist and a maim resist. I don't want to take chances, and I'm not finding many fast rushing angel defensive teams. So instead I'm running Diego as a lead, where all strong and tough teammates get plus 40% attack and a huge bonus to AP when attacking. His rush is amazing. It doesn't do much damage, but he's able to apply minus 65% defense and impair for 2 turns to one enemy and all enemies adjacent. And if you do this on the center toon, then everyone's impaired and everyone has their defense cut down to size. His active skill is a little slow in the new meta, so I don't rely upon it. He's mainly there for his rush and his leadership skill. And of course, by having a green leader, you can run a team player weapon on him to great effectiveness because all toons are adjacent to Diego. I have a defensive stun weapon so that he can survive a little longer while still being able to apply a little bit of control. Princess, who I already have in a different team, is also on this team. She's just a very effective damage dealer. She has tough HP just because it's taking too long to craft something else, so I may as well keep it and potentially weapon swap. I talked about Nick before. I have him modded in a specific way so that he can resist stun. Meanwhile, my Maggie resists confuse, so I just like having different toons and different teams with different mod sets. It allows me to be more adaptable to whatever type of team I'm anticipating on attacking. I have Ivanova on this team. She fits in a little better because she's a green toon and Diego supports her. I've given her an offensive stun weapon just because Diego has the defensive team player one, and I would still like for her to have some control, and her being able to apply some damage is always useful. Priya also fits in well into this team. High attack stat, lots of control, lots of damage. She provides most of my damage on my team, but I still have Princess there to normalize, as well as for backup. When we move on to my Mercer team, this is the team I use against RNG leaders, so against Mercer mainly. Sometimes against Jackies, but usually not. I like Mercer because of his leadership skill, where I have the opportunity to stun 5 enemies on the first turn, and a huge bonus to AP when taking damage, which can be very effective with my Priya because sometimes I can rush her twice on the same turn. My Mercer does not have a perfect weapon, but at 48% attack, as well as having team player on the 4th slot, it's a very effective weapon, and I can always weapon swap off. I'm looking to create a elusive impair weapon for him in the future, just because whoever attacks a Mercer lead assumes that they have stun, and they usually bring in toons that have stun resist mods. So by running impair, it would just create a nice switch up, at least for a defensive team. This is the weapon that I use on Mercer for my offensive team, and I find it to be very effective. A great chance to stun the enemy is about 50%, and the high attack on Mercer definitely helps when trying to finish a match off. When he rushes, he deals a high amount of damage and can also stun the enemy. Because I run Mercer on both attack and defense, I have a more defensive mod set because I don't rely upon only him on my attack teams to provide damage. He also needs to be very sturdy on defense, and I usually supplement my attack teams with enough damage dealers that I don't need to rely on Mercer to produce a lot of damage. I have HP set, HP mod, defense versus fast, reflect damage, a perfect stun resist mod, as well as a perfect attack mod. I find this setup on Mercer to be very effective both offensively and defensively. There are some things that I could definitely tweak, like if I got a second Mercer, one could be primarily defensive, while another one could be primarily offensive. For this team, I'm going to skip over Princess and Dr. Stevens because I've talked about them before, but I will talk about Glenn. So Glenn is one of my favorite command toons, and I feel like he's overlooked a lot because he's a Generation 1 commander. I find his rush to be really effective. When it does go off, I have a plus 65% attack and defense buff, while also being able to control 2 enemies for a single turn. So he allows me to have another layer of control. Also being a green toon on my Mercer team, if he takes any damage, he has a good chance at being able to rush and provide this attack buff and defense buff for my team. Even Glenn's active skill is pretty useful at the moment because there are lots of payback Shivas on defense that have the 1 turn 2000 bleed to the enemy when being attacked. On this specific Mercer team, Glenn also holds my team player weapon, so he provides that attack as well as crit bonus to all toons adjacent. Ideally for Glenn, an HP, defense, healing stun, and team player would be ideal for him because he would still be able to provide good coverage for my team while also being able to survive longer. So Glenn's mod set is a little all over the place, but I needed to adjust it based on the current meta and where I use him. So stun as well as confuse resist because of Mercers and Jackies, extra HP because I broke the set, defense versus tough because of the number of tough toons on defense, as well as graze, just for a chance at him being able to survive. Priya, of course, rounds out my attack team and makes my anti-Mercer team to be very effective. My other team that I run quite a bit is just a simple turn 1 attack team, and it's very simple because as soon as you understand AP gains, you know that if I attack with Priya on the first turn and I command her, and then I rush with Dr. Stevens next, then Priya will have the AP needed to rush, and because she's already been commanded, it means she can rush on the first turn. I have Mercer on the team as support, and it's mostly because he is a team player weapon. So all 4 toons besides Priya have team player, which gives her an additional plus 60% attack boost as well as plus 140 crit chance, meaning she's more likely to rampage. If I wanted to, I could give Mercer a plus 20% AP bonus to self and then swap in Maggie as a commander instead of Glenn, and I would be able to rush Mercer as well on the first turn. Or I could sub in Princess to rush on the first turn, or a Rav. There's a lot of different options for this team, but primary damage comes from Priya, and I use this team usually when I come across attack lead defensive teams. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching and listening to my video. I hope this helped break things down on what I used in WOC.